thank you very much for this kind invitation, and always proud to be in Ireland, the country which I did my master and PhD, and I decided to be in the lecture room, not in the courtroom. And thanks again for Professor William Shabazz. I have to say, yes, we learned a lot from him in 2000. Maybe we were the first to arrive to the Irish Center for Human Rights for the first master program in 2000. Here we go. Ireland is very important in my heart. I hope it's now 20 minutes past 1. I asked the chair to give me 1 or 2 minutes, so as an Egyptian, coming from Egypt, actually I was 2 days ago, I want to start with something very controversial, because again after lunch I think that people said, yes, it's boring and Mohamed Badar has nothing to do with the Palestinian case. I will ask you a question, provoke you, and I need an answer in 1 minute if you can. And of course, I discussed it also with others. Now we are talking about the International Criminal Court, International Criminal Court, International Criminal Justice, and people lost hope in one of the courts or both. Is that the last resort? I was in Egypt 3 days ago, training, having an honor for training judges, prosecutors from 22 Arab countries, and I have 180 online participants, not only 20 or 37, because I speak the language. So when we go to Egypt, we speak the language. When we go to the Arab or the Middle East, I want us to speak the language, or if you don't, you have interpreters. So we need to do conferences like this, and I promise you will have 400, 500, because you are in the region talking to the people who are, I will not say victims, the survivors of all core international crimes. Let's try to have it. It was a dream to have this. I brought it here to Amina, to Ireland, but why not to do it in the Middle East? So please, if you don't speak the language, we will find interpreter, but let's speak to the place which we have the survivors of the core international crimes. Now, my question is, why not universal jurisdiction? And I'll start the PowerPoint by the last. I want to show you what I'm talking about. Why not here? Why the focus on ICC? And there will be delay, and we don't know what's going to happen. We, international practitioners, we know about something called universal jurisdiction. A crime took place in country A, but country B, which has no jurisdiction over it, because the accused from country A, and the victims from country A, and it took place in the territory of country A, still country B can use universal jurisdiction so long the crimes are most serious crimes, genocide crimes, against humanity, war crimes, and. Look here at this, and then we're talking about global south. Universal jurisdiction always applied and exercised by Western against global south or against Asian. Here, the crimes, look here in Africa, of course we have here Africa, crimes took place here, and universal jurisdiction applied in Europe, Canada. Why not vice versa? Why not the Arabs? First of all, you have to have it in your domestic law to have universal jurisdiction applied. You have to apply it, actually, incorporate in your domestic law, incorporate international crimes in your domestic law, and then you have green light, go and apply it. Why always we have to wait for the other courts? Why not to take this initiative? I will stop here and let's go to the presentation, which is again Professor William Shabazz. He mentioned something in the morning very important about, in a week from now we will be doing or expecting International Court of Justice advisory opinion on the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. Sometime I put it OPT, and then time I put it POT, so I'm so sorry, but again, when I speak about OPT, it's occupied Palestinian territory. That's maybe in 1 week. Question: whether the decision will be implemented, whether the decision, or the, sorry, it's not the decision, the advisory opinion will halt the core international crimes being committed, from crimes against humanity to war crimes to genocide, if you can prove the genocidal intent, whether the implementation or the decision or the advisory opinion will change the status quo or not. I'm always optimistic, but I want to ask these questions to be sure what will happen, and I will compare this with another advisory opinion 2004, if you remember, on the legal consequences of the construction of the wall. What happened there, 2004? I will go through it very, 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 not slow, very quickly. If you cannot catch anything, the PowerPoint, you will have it. I want to pave the way and the road for the other speakers. John will speak about apartheid. I will just mention notions, but I will pave the way. And again, I haven't prepared any of my presentation for the past 20 years. I have troops helping me. I have people, research assistants helping me. And I have to say thank for all the research assistants who helped me to put the ideas together. I have ideas, but they are still young. They can do a PowerPoint presentation for 5 hours. For me, I will pick an image, and then I will look at the image. I will change it 100 times. That's why I failed to do something alone, but I have always team supporting me. So this is, if this is successful, based on a team who's supporting me from Poland, from Egypt, from Lebanon, from Tunisia, from many states. Let's go, and that's the structure of the presentation. A brief presentation of the procedural background of the request for the advisory opinion, the one which we are expecting in 1 week from now. Implications of the whole opinion. I want to just to compare what happened in 2004, anything improved or not, and what will happen in 2024. And a brief examination of the legal arguments brought before the International Court of Justice. Here's the terms of the request. So the request was not by South Africa here, it was by United Nations General Assembly. Resolution adopted on 30th of December 2022. That's the resolution. And what about the request? The aim of the advisory opinion was to provide clarification on the interpretation of the relevant principles of international law, Charter of the United Nations, international humanitarian law, human rights law, resolutions of the Security Council, General Assembly resolution, and Human Rights Council resolution, as well as the advisory opinion of the Court, of the International Court of Justice, 9th of July 2000. We have dozens of Security Council resolutions and Human Rights Council, dozens of resolutions saying that there is violation, but no one listened. No one listened. Now, so what exactly the questions, the question has like twofold, like two parts of the question by the General Assembly. What are the legal, so the General Assembly asking the International Court of Justice at The Hague, please, we need advisory opinion on, that's the first part. What are the legal consequences arising from the ongoing violations by Israel of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, from its prolonged occupation, settlement, and annexation of the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including measures aimed at altering the demographic composition, character, and status of the Holy City of Jerusalem, and from its adoption of related discriminatory legislation and measures. It's one paragraph, one part of the question, very heavy one. Very, very heavy one. And the second part, how do the policies and practices of Israel referred to in the above paragraph affect the legal status of the occupation, and what are the legal consequences that arise for all states and the United Nations from this status? Maybe I'll stop here again, pause, and I can see now. It's very important to see, don't lose hope. At least, hopefully, with this advisory opinion, many who used to support Israel, they will think about it. So let's wait and see what will happen. Here's the whole opinion, just to remind you. And again, advisory opinion delivered by the International Court of Justice on the basis of the General Assembly resolution adopted on 8th of December. And here was the question: what are the legal consequences arising from the construction of the wall being built by Israel, the occupying power, in the Palestinian occupied territory, or including in and around East Jerusalem, considering the rules and principles of international law? The whole opinion dealt with questions similar to the ones posed in the present request by the General Assembly for concerning the legality of Israelis' actions in the occupied Palestinian territory. Back again, I'm just reminding you what happened. In its advisory opinion on 9th of July 2004, the court found that the construction of the wall by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory are contrary to the principal finding of the court regarding the construction of the wall, including the following. I will not go through all of them. I will just read the first two and then I will move. Israel, as occupying power, is under a legal obligation to comply with the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 in the occupied Palestinian territory. All Israeli settlements are illegal as they violate Article 49, paragraph 6 of the Fourth Geneva Convention. Israel is bound by International Human Rights Convention in and so on and so on. That's 2004, it's not 2024. Question, whether anything improved? No. Quickly, I found this again in the morning, early in the morning. It was 190 kilometers, the wall. And here we have all the judges, and we have Judge Al-Arabi, so we have some also good judges from the ICJ. That's all the judges from the ICJ. But 2004 to 2017, I don't want to exaggerate. People said the wall at this time, when the UN General Assembly asked for advisory opinion, they said maybe 180 kilometers, 190. People said now it's maybe 300 or 260. I'm not sure, 440. I'm not sure. I'm not, again, a Palestinian who knows more about. So it continues. After the advisory opinion, it continues to be larger and larger. What is the applicable law for this request, which again, Professor Shaber said in 1 week we will hear from it from the International Court of Justice. We have international humanitarian law, we have international human rights law, and of course all the conventions, and we have peremptory norms. And I want to stop here. Not all of you are experts on international law, and I'm not asking you to do it, even especially at this time. But what do we mean by peremptory norms? Because I will repeat it in the last slide. As higher order norms, peremptory norms embody three essential characteristics. According to the International Law Commission, they protect values fundamental to international legal order, shared by the international community as a whole. Two, they are universally applicable by virtue of their non-derogability. You cannot derogate. And superior to other norms of international law not having the same character, entailing obligation of an erga omnes character. Again, we lawyers will use all this nice Latin, but I want to make it easy for you. Legal arguments. At the ICJ now, Israel annexation of Jerusalem and changes to its demographic composition, character, and statute in its legal implications. Transfer of the occupants' population into the occupied territory, as well as the forcible transfer of the existing population from the occupied territory, are expressly prohibited inter alia. My question here, and Professor Shaber said in the morning, look at the International Court of Justice, we have some crimes. If the ICJ said, yes, they are violating this, this will put more pressure on the International Criminal Court prosecutor. Look, we have violation. Okay, it can be a war crime, it can be crimes against humanity. So again, it's good that I'm so proud that South Africa initiated this. Because remember, we have like four months. I was trying to enter my lecture room to speak about international law. There was no international law before South Africa. I was just counting how many people being killed or this. And then South Africa started to bring international law to us. Occupation versus annexation. You can see the slide here. Situation on the occupied Palestinian territory bears two marks of the classical meaning of military occupation. It is a formal system of external control by a force whose presence is not sanctioned by international agreement, and second, a conflict of nationality and interest between the inhabitants on the one hand and those exercising power over them. And here is a question for you in red. It's crystal clear. Is it 57 years occupation? Is that temporary? I don't think so. Occupation versus annexation. I'm skipping. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have liberated Jerusalem. Okay, we have reunited the capital of Israel. We have returned to this most sacred shrine, never to be part or to part from it again. Who said that? Defense Minister General Moshe Dayan, if you remember Moshe Dayan, 1967. We will forever keep Jerusalem united under Israel or Israel's sovereignty. They are not hiding. And so on and so forth. And again, one of the blame for the ICC, if you have you have a lot of statement. What about incitement to genocide? You don't need to go to Israel or to Gaza to prove incitement to genocide. But the arrest warrant lacks this. Actually, it's not arrest, it's a request for arrest warrant. We have prohibition of racial discrimination and apartheid. We have John, the one who will follow. He will speak about it, so I will not go through it. But here, it will give you an idea about the violation. And I'm not sure whether the ICJ will go through each of these violations or not. But we have, is it apartheid? And what about the right to self-determination? Demographic manipulation, it's crystal clear. This also can be war crimes. Transfer of Israeli nationals to the occupied Palestinian territory, again, another war crime. So when I was in Egypt, people asked me, but why is the arrest warrant only speaking about starvation? Where are the other crimes? Again, God only knows. Denial of sovereignty, again, legal consequence of the international community. Like I started the presentation, I said, okay, but what about also states after the ICJ who will continue cooperate, continue supporting Israel with arms, with all the logistics. Will it be, or will they stand trial or not? And this will bring us to something very important. Violation of peremptory norms, which I spoke about it in the name of the Torah. So, Exodus 23, little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. That's the translation. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. You can continue reading. That's some of the extremists believe. And I'm telling here, is it the power of religion or the power of international law? And whether the religion, if it will override the power of international law, let us continue. Don't make a covenant with them or with their gods. Don't let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. We are having a difficulty. Some people believe in this, and that's why negotiate with what? Covenant with whom? Why till now we don't have 2 states? I used to be naive, and I'm still naive, but when I read this, maybe they have reasons they will never do a covenant, otherwise they will be breaching what they believe in. Is it not the time that someone will go and interpret this in a way that we have a peace? And that's the universal jurisdiction and the last hope, which I mentioned in the early beginning of my presentation. Why not, if the ICC is not that active, why not other countries will take initiative? And here is the surprise, in the Francophone countries, we have trial in absentia. So we have trial in absentia until the accused or convicted will appear, and then we have a new trial. So in Egypt, in France, in Algeria, most of the Arab countries, we have trial in absentia. And if we have universal jurisdiction and we incorporate the international crimes, we can start now to have, and we have also evidence, because we're in the Middle East. We have many survivors. So why not to start universal jurisdiction, activate it, exercise it, and in absentia? And no one spoke about it. So it's a time now to think outside the box of the ICC, and I'll stop here. Hopefully it will pave the road for other my colleagues to speak more in depth. Thank you very much.